He's been picked out. Socks down to his ankle. Picks out Stansfield. That's the hat-trick. And that's what dreams are made of.
Hello everybody and welcome to Park Life, the official Exeter City podcast. City are battling through a tough run of form at the moment, but they need your help to get back to winning ways. In this week's episode, the focus is on togetherness. Let's get straight into it. Coming up in today's episode, Pierce Sweeney joins me to discuss the problems facing City at the moment and how the team are working together to grab that elusive win. BBC Radio Devon reporter and former Grecian Tonge is here to identify what went wrong at Derby and how City can get a result on Saturday. Gary Hutchinson from the Stacey West Blog joins me to talk about managerless Lincoln City and their current situation and how results have started to pick up with caretaker manager Tonge at the helm. Finally, Derek Baker from the Exeter City Academy joins me to talk about how the under-18s are getting on in the Youth Alliance League. To open the show today, Pierce Sweeney joined me to give a frank assessment of the position City find themselves in and how the team are working together to end this poor run of results. Pierce, thanks for joining us. You gave a very honest assessment of the situation at the club right now. Now that you've slept on it, how do you reflect on the defeat at Pride Park?
Still pretty similar to how I felt last night. Maybe if I was to give the same interview now, I probably wouldn't be as. I was a little bit emotional, a little bit frustrated. But I think what I said was probably what a lot of people are thinking, and just needed to put my face out there. And because listen, it's not an easy situation for us as players, for the manager, for the fans to be in. So I just wanted to come out and kind of air my voice and let everybody know that we're trying our best, but our best at the minute isn't good enough. And I know that if we hit 10% better, 15% better, we can beat most teams in this league. And that's probably the most disappointing thing is me, the manager and the coaching staff, and even us players can see the potential in our team and in our squad when we're in full flow. So it was a disappointing evening last night, purely on the back of probably 6 defeats on the bounce, not so much the actual result. It's just kind of everything getting on top of each other, I think.
It sounds like you really feel it. You really understand what Exeter City fans are thinking. Obviously, they travel all the way up to Derby. It sounds like you're just as frustrated as they are.
Yeah, listen, I sat on the bench for 80 minutes. I watched the game for 80 minutes. And I'll be honest with you, I'm probably one of the worst people to watch a game of football from the bench because it is very, very frustrating. When you can't affect the game. And the manager came to me the minute the half-time whistle went, and he asked my opinion on what I saw, and we pretty much could see the exact same thing of how we were shaped up. So listen, I've been at the club a long time, and when I first came, I think we probably had 3,000-4,000 in the stadium. We would only take 200-300 on away days. Over the last 2 or 3 years, we've been getting 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 at home, and we've been taking high hundreds into 1,000 to 1,200 fans to some away games. So, and listen, I know an awful lot of fans. I speak to an awful lot of fans on a Saturday, and as I'm walking into the stadium. So, it probably. I'm not going to say it probably affects me more than other players because everybody doesn't like losing. pretty much every player wants to win, wants to achieve something, but when you've been at a football club for so long, it does get under your skin a little bit more.
For sure. Have you managed to put a finger on where it's going wrong at the moment?
I'm not entirely sure. I think us players are to blame for an awful lot of things that's going wrong. Listen, the way the manager wants to play football, you could clearly see how good we were in the first 6 or 7 games. We were tearing teams apart. Speaking to a couple of players on different teams in that period, they couldn't believe how good we were. I spoke to an ex-player of ours, and one of his good friends was at Reading. He played for Reading, and he told them after the game that we were the best team they had played so far in the season. So, to get a compliment like that off a player who's playing for Reading should stand highly. But I'm not entirely sure. Our luck is really down. It seems like we're conceding some really, really soft goals. And then some goals are kind of a bit freakish goals. I think the second goal on Saturday was, listen, when your luck is down at rock bottom, it just keeps on coming. And for us to concede that goal in the manner we did was probably sums up how our luck is at the minute. But listen, football is a cruel game. When you're not hitting the levels you probably should be, you get punished, and especially at this level we're at now, and we need to realise that quickly.
For sure. You mentioned some teams think that we've been the best team they've played against. You look back to the start of the season, that 3-0 win against Wycombe Wanderers, of course. I know that Sam Nombe has since left and Dion Rankin's still out injured, but the squad is pretty similar still. It's clear that the quality is there, but it's just not quite coming together right now.
No, listen, confidence is probably at an all-time low. And I'll be honest with you, we done remarkably well to put the performance we did in on Saturday against Wigan. Considering the run we've been on, we had a brilliant week. We had a brilliant couple of days off over the international break, and the manager and the coaching staff tried to change the week up a little bit, kind of throw a couple of different things at us and focus on the game, but then some aspects take our minds away from the kind of scenario we're in. So we done really well to put that high level performance regardless of the result. I think any other day, I think we win that game 3 or 4-1, the kind of dominance we had in that game. So yeah, the squad is pretty similar. But I think the minute we get that win under our belts, I think we kick on again, and we probably go back to where we were early on in the season.
But I suppose during times like these, it's important that the team sticks together. Does it still feel like the boys are working as a team to try and end this poor run of form?
Yeah, listen, when you're in a team environment with lads who are passionate, lads who want to win, lads who are at this football club to achieve something, and there's gonna be words said, and there's definitely been a couple of discussions over the last couple of weeks, and I think we'll probably have another one tomorrow in a team meeting where some home truths need to come out, and we need to speak to each other in a kind of honest and brutal way, and we need to take that on the chin because we haven't been good enough, and in the nature of football, when you're on a streak of losing games, there's only one person who gets punished, and that's the manager of the football club. And I said it last night, we haven't been helping him out at all. And I take full blame, and I would imagine pretty much all the players would be taking that blame as well, because there's only so much a manager and coaching staff can do. But the minute we go onto the pitch, it's down to us players.
Yeah, for sure. But City have a chance to bounce back on Saturday when we host Lincoln City at home. How important is that we stop the rot on Saturday and win that game?
Yeah, listen, I think I think if we were playing Lincoln or if we were playing Blackpool or Portsmouth, it was always going to be the same level of pressure to win the game. But they've they haven't got a manager. I think they've won two games. They were two since he's been sacked. So it's going to be a tricky game, but I think if we put the level of performance we did last week at home, listen, I don't think any team can cope with us. Wigan are a really strong team at this level, regardless of the situation that football club is in. They've got a really big budget. They've got some really good players with a good manager, and let's be honest with you, we tore them apart. So if we can get near that level on Saturday, I don't think Lincoln will be able to match us.
Well, let's hope so. And how important is it that the fans get behind the team and support what you're trying to do on the pitch?
Yeah, listen, it's vitally important, but I'm not stupid. There might be a little bit of anxiety in the stands. There might be a little bit of frustration early on in the game, and for us players, we need to get the fans on our side straight away on Saturday. Listen, it's human nature for people to be frustrated if your beloved football club is on a terrible run of form. It's human nature to voice your opinion from a football stand when you're watching something you don't like. So it's down to us to put a strong performance in, and listen. The least we can do is work really hard, give 100%. And I've been here long enough to know Exeter City fans can get behind hard work, and first and foremost that's what we go into the game to do.
And I suppose all of those players won't necessarily need any geeing up. They'll be just as eager as you to win that game.
Yeah, I don't think. I think we could go into that game without the manager even doing a team talk on Saturday. I think everybody's as frustrated as I am, as negative as last night was. I think everybody's fully focused on the next couple of days. And listen, there's only one game in our thoughts at the minute, and that's Lincoln. We've got obviously a big game on Tuesday against Middlesbrough, which is sold out, and another big game next week. But we're fully focused on Saturday because we need to get a result, and we need to get a win.
Well, the fans will all be behind you, Pierce. Thank you so much for joining me on Park Life. Next, I'm joined by BBC Radio Devon reporter and former Grecian Alan Tonge to dissect what went wrong at Pride Park and how the team can bounce back with a win. Alan, welcome to Park Life. Thanks for joining us. You were on commentary for BBC Radio Devon on Tuesday for the 2-0 defeat to Derby County. What were your main takeaways from it?
Main takeaways for Derby were the better side on the night. I think Exeter just put in a performance that was a bit disappointing, to be fair. And going to a decent stadium such as Pride Park, something to really look forward to. It was the 12-month anniversary of Gary's appointment, so that was sort of nice as well. And it just didn't happen for Exeter. Derby created more opportunities, more shots on target, and they were worthy 2-0 winners, to be fair.
Yeah, but perhaps so. City have now lost 6 league games on the bounce, which stretches back to September. What do you think is going wrong for City at the moment?
I think it's just trying to convert some of the chances, and I think a bit more creative play around the box, and trying to carve and convert some opportunities is kind of where Exeter are just being found a little bit wanting at the moment. And that's the problem, if you're not scoring goals, it puts pressure on your back four, but puts pressure on the defenders, puts pressure on the goalkeeper, because you're trying to hold the fort, as it were. And sometimes the defenders, the midfielders, they need a bit of respite. They need somebody to hold the ball up a little bit in the further parts of the pitch and try and create some stuff. And that's where we're a bit lacking at the moment. We're just not managing to find the net. And when you don't do that, clearly you're up against it, and there's a problem there that needs solving.
Yeah, perhaps so. You mentioned the team are struggling to score goals, just 2 goals in the last 6 games. Why do you think that is necessarily?
Well, there's been a lot of change, hasn't there, over the summer. We've seen a lot of players that have moved on and departed, which is fine. Everybody sort of looks for new opportunities, and to push the careers on a bit, and the manager's brought in like sort of plenty of new players as well. And the season started off really well. There was a lot of positivity. We were keeping clean sheets. We were scoring goals. We got on a nice little run. Managed to get on the top of League One, which was fantastic. And then, as you say, Tom, I think over this last period now, for some reason, we've just sort of lacked a bit of a cutting edge and not had the rub of the green at times. I think we performed quite well against Wigan Athletic. We had some good data, some good statistics. But unless you find in the back of the net, football is about trying to find wins, especially at the within professional levels. And if you're not managing to do that, if you're not scoring goals, it's an issue, isn't it? And that's something that needs to be rectified as soon as possible. As you say, on a losing run of 6 games now, and we've got to find that win sooner or later from somewhere.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And but despite those poor performances, despite the poor run of form, there have still been some bright moments. Vincent Harper, I think he's been one of the shining lights, despite the poor run of form.
Yeah, absolutely. A really good player. Been brought in over the summer, just trying to establish his position and settle down into that position. I think Demi Mitchell's been playing well. I think been impressed with Jack Hutchinson as well, and there has been some little sort of stars and highlights in there, and the great little cup run as well. Tom, that's a really big plus at the moment. Going into the game against Middlesbrough, I think it's on Halloween, isn't it? On the 1st of October. So I hope it's not going to be a nightmare for Exeter on that night. But that's something to really look forward to. So there is a couple of little things that we hopefully we can engender and build some team spirit and just try and find that win and get that win over the line and turn this around and hopefully get moving up the table in the right direction.
We've seen so many teams before go through a poor run of form and then just get one win, and then that catapults their season. I mean, if you look all the way back to the 2016-2017 season, right at the start of that season, failing to win at home right up until December, and then suddenly a playoff push and get to the playoff final. Yes, we lose to Blackpool, but doesn't that just show that one result can really spark a revival of form?
Oh, absolutely, definitely. If you can find, it's all about ifs and buts football, isn't it? And if you can find a few wins and you can suddenly propel yourself up that table again and get on the cusp of promotion and start pushing. But I think at the moment our confidence is low, which is natural because results are not going our way. But as you say, Tom, I think the players, the manager, they take anything at the moment to get those 3 points, a scruffy last minute goal off a knee or an own goal or something like that. Just to get that belief and that movement again. And that's all we can do is just keep hoping. I know that there's a little bit of disgruntlement at the moment. There's a little bit of concern, which is natural after losing 6 league matches. But you just got to keep that hope that it can turn around just as quickly. And I think Gary Caldwell said in his interview last night, he's fully believes in the squad still. We've got some really good players that he's brought in, and he's just finding that form, trying to go back to 6-7 weeks ago, what we was doing then to get at the top of the table, and just try and find that again and get moving in the right direction.
That being said then, the boys have got a chance to bounce back when Lincoln City head to St James Park on Saturday. How important is it that City end this poor run of form on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's a big game, isn't it? I was listening to Pierce's interview after the Derby match last night. He was saying about, this is a huge tie really for Exeter, and one that everybody's got to pull together. We've got to try and find a win here if we can. I think it's really important that the fans do the bit as well. We need the fans on Saturday to get right behind the team and push them and try and get these 3 points behind us and get us, like I say, get us moving in the right direction again. It's a big win. I don't think we can be affording to lose 7 on the bounce. Then it does start getting a bit concerning, and I think it's really important that we try and find a win. So everybody's got to be in it together on Saturday. The management, the coaching staff, the backroom staff, the supporters, the players. Everybody's got to pull together and try and find this win. And let's hope we can get St James's Park rocking and find those 3 points.
You mentioned the fans. I'm sure that they'll be behind the team on Saturday. The Big Bank always makes a lot of noise. But you mentioned the word togetherness. I really do think that is the crucial word, and it's so needed on Saturday from the team, from the crowd, from everybody associated with Exeter City. We can only do this by working together.
100%. So we don't want any fractures appearing, and cliques starting and people start breaking into different groups. We need to be united here. And, the Exeter fans have done fantastic so far this season. They were brilliant again last night at Derby. They always sing loud and proud because I fully understand that it's not cheap to follow football, especially away from home these days. It's quite expensive, and to travel in the numbers like they do is absolutely brilliant. And I just felt a bit sorry for them last night, because it was a little bit of a performance that sort of lacked passion. It lacked a bit of desire for some reason. Maybe some of the players were a little bit overawed by Derby, respected them too much, I think, as Pierce alluded to as well. I just felt a little bit sorry for the fans last night that the players couldn't deliver for them. But that game's gone now. We've got to drop that as soon as we can. That's one thing that impresses me with some professional footballers, and that is dropping a result and moving on to the next one. I think Gary Caldwell said, back on the training ground today, and moving towards that fixture on Saturday, getting all the preparation and the planning done. I'm sure there'll be some analysis getting done on Lincoln City, and let's hope we can put it all together and find that elusive win, Tom.
I think everybody is gonna be looking for it, and everybody's working towards it. But can the boys do it? Can they get the result on Saturday?
Of course, there's enough quality in that group of players. We've seen it already. There's some really good results, especially away from home. The games that I've covered for Radio Devon, a great win up at Carlisle, great win at Burton. So the potential's there. Some really good players, but it's like, I think it was Vince Lombardi, the old coach, American football coach, said, "Winning isn't everything; it's the only thing." It's so true, isn't it? And as I said to just a little bit earlier, I think we'd take anything at the moment to get those 3 points over the line.
Well, let's hope that we can do it on Saturday. Alan, thank you so much. Your insight has been incredible. Fingers crossed we can get that result on Saturday.
Thank you so much, Tom. Fingers crossed. Yeah, let's hope we can do the business.
To get the lowdown on the Imps, I'm joined by Gary Hutchinson from the Stacey West Blog to talk about Lincoln City's start to the season. Gary, welcome to Park Life. Thanks for joining us. Lincoln have had a pretty turbulent season so far, a bit up and down. I'm not sure how many of your supporters expected a managerial change by October, but here we are. Talk to me a little bit about what the start of the season has looked like for the Imps.
Yeah, it's been really unusual. We came out of the blocks like a greyhound for the first few games. We beat Blackpool 3-0, we beat Wycombe 3-0, both at home. We went to Shrewsbury, we won. We progressed in the League Cup. We went to Sheffield United at the end of August. We knocked them out of the League Cup. And we were looking forward then to a kind of a top six assault. It all felt really, really good, really positive. And then within a week, we lost two of our strikers, and we only have three to injury. So we lost Tyler Walker to a 9 or 10 week injury. We lost Ben House for 3 to 5 months. And then things just crumbled through September. We looked really poor going forward. Hakeem Adelican was brought back into the fold, who hadn't even featured in the pre-season pictures. He was out. He was gone. We'd offered him a settlement that he had turned down. So he was playing up front for us. And things just really collapsed quite quickly, aside from a really good showing in the League Cup against West Ham the night after. I think you guys beat Luton Town. Aside from that, we just looked really negative, like the lowest XG in the division going forward, but the lowest XG conceded at the other end. We were just sat watching nothing. And then from, as you say, in many people's eyes, from nowhere, Mark Kennedy gets sacked. Everyone thought he'd got the safety net of us not having the strikers, and it kind of felt like, well, he's got that protection because he can always go, yeah, but and then it seemed to come out of nowhere. It didn't. I think there'd been rumblings and there was reasons for it, which he called a player out post match, and it was really uncalled for after the sending off. He was sent off against Burton. He called out Danny Mandroyu, and then the last 7 days, all of a sudden, it's shot back up again. Went to Fleetwood and won 1-0. Great performance against Charlton as well. And suddenly we're in ninth. We're in touching distance of the playoffs when we were looking behind us. What a difference a week makes in football. Exactly.
And the man that is responsible for that change, I guess, is caretaker manager Tom Shaw, who seems to have changed a little bit about the team. What exactly has he changed from Mark Kennedy's tenure, and why has it worked so well?
It's strange because technically he hasn't changed anything. The things that we've done in the last 2 games are the things that you could see that we were on the cusp of doing really well in August. So Fleetwood, we went there, we nicked a goal. We had to soak up a lot of pressure in the second half. We asked questions of those in the first half. It's kind of what we did against Shrewsbury away earlier in the season, albeit the other way around, in that we put the pressure on in the second half and we soaked it up in the first half. Last night was unique in that we actually had shots on target, and our XG, which I love, by the way, was fantastic. But it was just a hint. It was what we'd already seen against Wycombe. We beat Wycombe 3-0. In the last 15-20 minutes, we were sensational in that game. There's little kind of passages of play and certain patterns. So it's almost just like he's taken the good bits from Mark Kennedy's reign and just implemented them and properly. And bear in mind, Tom Shaw's been with Lincoln City since 2017, 2018. So he's been kind of behind the scenes for the last 5 years. He's responsible for all of the out of possession work with the team over the last 18 months. He coaches everything out of possession, which has been the one thing we've been really good at. So it's almost like we've taken away kind of a little bit of negativity. I understand that it wasn't entirely a happy camp behind the scenes, and that potentially there was some issues with Mark Kennedy and certain players and staff. I think Tom Shaw is somebody who's liked. You know what it's like in any workplace. Like the boss is a figure of fun, but there's always somebody who's just underneath him who you can kind of go to, and you get a more kind of human touch. And I think that's the case with Tom. Bear in mind, against Charlton, we started with 3 up front, a winger in the middle, a right back on the right wing, and a central midfielder on the left wing. So I'm just excited what might come next.
Well, yeah, it was an incredible result. I think your exact words you posted on Twitter, now X, not really sure what we should call it. I think your exact words were simply superb. Just elaborate on that.
Yeah, it was, because once again we went 1-0 down. You haven't got a striker. You've had 6-7 weeks of going 1-0 down, not having a striker, and knowing you're not going to have shots. But we played with a real verve that was just like would suddenly come alive. I mean, Lasse Sorensen was signed as a central midfielder who's been playing right wing back since the middle of the last season. He was on the right wing. It was shot after shot after shot. We were peppering the goal. We've got a wicked long throw from Hakiba Delican, which is just, he launches it in. It's like a corner anywhere in kind of the final quarter of the pitch. But we were picking up the second balls. We were asking questions of the keeper. There was runners. There was overlapping. We were using the width of the pitch. We know we've got some really good players. And that, I don't mean that arrogantly, because everybody thinks their players are really good. I know Ethan Hamilton is one of the best central midfielders in this division. He was with Accrington. He was a Man United youngster. He's brilliant. Ethan Arahand, our record signing, rumours we've paid around £250,000 to St Mirren for him. They're good players. Lasse Sorensen is a good player. But to finally see them playing as if they weren't under instruction, as if they were playing freedom, it was like watching a really good kids team in the park, if you understand what I mean, where they get totally. The ball and they want to do something with it. And it hasn't just been 18 months under Mark Kennedy. It was a year under Michael Appleton before that, where it was either possession for possession's sake with no killer touch, or with Mark Kennedy, it was no possession for no possession's sake without the killer touch. So to finally just sit there and see 24 shots, 9 on goal, XG 3.46, more touches in the box in one game than we've probably had collectively in the last 2 or 3. That's why it was superb, because I came away from Sincil Bank thinking, do you know what? Finally, I've got my money's worth.
Well, I mean, Tom Shaw is the man in temporary charge at the moment. Do you expect a new permanent manager by Saturday, or do you think you'll stick with Shaw in the short term and, I suppose, throwing forward, maybe even in the long term?
Certainly think in the short term, Tom Shaw will be in the dugout. I think that he'll be there for the game at St James's Park. I imagine the same against Oxford a week on Tuesday now. Chris Cohen, the former Nottingham Forest coach and assistant manager at Southampton and Luton, has come in to assist with coaching. So for me, when you make just a temporary appointment like that, I think it's more than a week. I think the board are going to be really considered in what they do. A couple of the favourites, Damien Duff and Stephen Bradley, are obviously in position in Ireland at the moment, and their season doesn't end until a week on Friday. So I think we'll see Tom Shaw until then. However, is there a better job interview than 2 wins out of 2? Dare I wish 3 wins out of 3, 10 points from 12, something like that. There isn't. And the longer he does the job and he does it successfully, the less likely it is that we will be going outside of the sphere and going, well, we'll bring somebody else in. It's more likely that we'll give him the tools he needs to continue doing the job. So it's interesting. Obviously, there's the ghost of Danny Cowley still stalking the corridors of Sincil Bank. He's a red-hot favourite as well. Half the fan base would love to see him back, but I don't think the club are going to be rushed into anything at all.
No, well, it's certainly one to keep an eye on for sure. One man who you mentioned a little bit earlier was Hakeeb Adelican, right? Had a great game against Charlton, scored a brace. His story with Lincoln has been quite an interesting one. Sent out on loan last season to get game time at Gillingham, and he's come back to Lincoln seemingly twice the player that he was before he left. Is he the real danger man that City fans, Exeter City fans, should be keeping an eye out on for Saturday?
Well, no, and yes, at the same time. I mean, his story is a little deeper than that. So he signed under Michael Appleton. He was written off after a bizarre incident against Carlisle in the EFL Trophy, where he went off the pitch to get a drink during play, and his man then got away and scored the goal that ultimately ended up knocking us out of the competition. Didn't play again. Michael Appleton just dropped him. He went to Gillingham, as you say, couldn't get a game on loan in League Two, scored a big FA Cup goal for them, but was sent back to us, offered terms to leave in the summer, refused them, offered a loan deal on deadline day, turned it down. During one of our pre-season friendlies, was pictured at a concert in London with his friends. And all of a sudden, he's our leading scorer. He's likely to play up front on Saturday because Rico Hackett is now injured. Obviously, Walker's injured, House is injured. Danny Mandroyu's suspended. It's kind of needs must. Is he the danger man? No, I'd say Lasse Sorensen probably still is going to be a phenomenal footballer. But if Hacks turns in the sort of performance he did yesterday, rather than the sort of performance he turned in briefly against Burton 2 weeks ago, then absolutely. The bizarre thing about Lincoln at the moment is you never know who's actually going to stand out. When we do well, it's usually somebody playing out of position who you'd already written off, which is a great place to be in.
And that sounds like a bit of a headache for the opposition manager. So we'll have to see how Gary deals with that. But I guess that result has come at just the wrong time for Exeter too, especially whilst we're in the form that we're in. Are you feeling optimistic about your trip down to Devon this Saturday?
Yes, for the first time ever. Because St James's Park is always a tough place to come. I remember the playoff semi-final second leg. It was a couple of days after I'd had a back operation, and I laid on the sofa and watched it and wish I was back under anaesthetic. But we had some great tussles that season. There was the game, I think we won 3-2 at Sincil Bank. But yeah, Exeter are a good side. They do, as a club, they do things the right way. Apart from the 3-0 win we had, I think, the year that we won the title, it's always felt like a relatively difficult place to go. It's a long journey, etc., etc. However, I've looked at your form. Being honest, over the summer, I looked at what the business that Exeter did, and I thought, you're in trouble here, because it was almost a absolutely en masse change. Apart from, I think you kept the lad Mitchell, who I'm a massive fan of, huge fan, great player. But I feared for Exeter. First 3-4 weeks of the season, out the blocks, I thought, there you go, you found the winning formula. When you get in a habit of losing football games, even when it's unlucky, Wigan, probably the better side against Wigan 2 weeks ago, last week. When you get in that habit of losing football games, it's really hard to beat. And if you're in the habit of losing and the team that you're coming up against is suddenly in the habit of winning, that's when it gets tough. And yeah, for me, I'm actually quite hopeful. I don't normally come on opposition podcasts and sound arrogant. I really try not to. I try and be as humble as possible. But this is actually one of the first times where I've done a podcast, and hand on heart, I can say, do you know what, I can actually see us winning probably 2-0. So cue a 3-0 defeat for Lincoln, but yeah.
We'll have to wait and see, won't we? I mean, you mentioned that SJP has been quite a difficult place for Lincoln to go to. Of course, I was going to bring up the 2018 playoff semi-final. Yes. You did it, so I didn't have to. But last year, I mean, that mix-up between Carl Rushworth and Sean Rowan, I mean, that caused that basically handed Exeter City the game. SJP is a difficult place for Lincoln to go to. It has historically been. Is that playing on your mind a little bit, do you think?
I don't think it'll play on the team's mind. I don't think Tom Shaw and the players will. I think they'll just see it as another game. And I think I go back probably to a day where you wouldn't maybe have the overnight stay, or if you did, it was, you went down on a rickety bus budget hotel. So the longer journeys, we never got anything. We never got anything from, dare I say it, I'll get booed right now, Plymouth. We never went to Home Park. We never get anything from there. You never get anything from Plainmoor. By the time you get down there, you're on holiday. Do you know what I mean? I may as well have jetted off to Paris. So there were long journeys, tiring journeys. In the modern game, I think it's a little bit different. And with the changes that you've had at the ground and that as well, it's probably a little bit more welcoming. I think sometimes those, dare I say, because we were there as well, when the ground's a little bit more ramshackle, a little bit tighter, a little bit more hostile, I think that could play on the minds. But I think from in terms of a professional edge, I don't think that it will bother the players at all. For me, I mean, I still remember, and I'm going to, any listeners of yours that are kind of older than me remember this, I remember us getting thumped 5-1 on the final day of the season. I think it was 1990. At St James's Park. So I've just got horrific memories of any trip to Exeter at all, and I didn't make the 3-0 win. So yeah, it always plays on my mind. And I don't want my uncle or my cousin ringing me up or giving me hassle on the phone because they're season ticket holders. So
yeah, well, it will certainly be an interesting game and one that I'm certainly looking forward to. But Gary, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck for the rest of the season, with the added caveat, of course, of maybe not on Saturday.
Thank you very much. Same to you.
Finally, I'm joined by Exeter City Academy reporter Derek Baker to talk all things ECFC Academy, both present and past. Derek, welcome to Park Life. Great to have you back with us. Last time we spoke, the young Grecians had just kicked off their season with a win over Swindon Town. How have the team got on since then?
So in truth, with youth football, it's always hard to build consistency and consistent performances, and that's probably what a lot of the coaches are really looking for. And unfortunately, they haven't been able to build or find another sort of league victory since they played that opening game. But there's been some moments of magic, I guess, in the games that have followed, and I know they'll be bitterly disappointed that they lost out to their rivals Plymouth Argyle in August, but they were 2-0 up in that game and showing some real quality in that, and they were unfortunate to lose, I think, to a late goal. On top of that, obviously they've progressed as well in the FA Youth Cup, although they've just been knocked out of that. Or so, should I say the Youth Alliance Cup? They got through against Oxford United on penalties, who have often been a quite decent academy side as well. So they got through that, but unfortunately, again, just missed out on progressing in the next round when they played Sutton United on an away trip there. So although most of the results might not look too pleasing on the eye, there's certainly been sort of moments to really take away and learn from. Hopefully they'll kick on sort of in the second half of this sort of Youth Alliance League campaign and start turning some of those moments into longer periods in the game and some better results.
You mentioned those players who have provided moments, the bright sparks throughout the season so far. Just talk to me a bit about the individuals who are creating those moments. Who is really impressing in the under-18s at the moment?
Theo Cutler certainly sort of started the season really well, but I think he's been hampered. He's been absent for a few recent games. So just when you think some of these players like Theo are starting to get a little bit of a run in form, there seems to be a sort of step backwards just because, I don't know, they're absent for, various reasons. I know injuries have certainly hampered the side as well. So they haven't had a consistent back four, if you like. And they've tried different shapes and different systems as well. So, but Theo definitely sort of started the season well. So if he gets up and running again, he'll be key to how sort of the results pan out. Off the back of that, obviously, Jake Richards has certainly sort of played his part in amongst sort of the midfield, and hence why he sort of, I guess, a lot of fans are getting excited about in terms of seeing his name towards the first team and stuff like that. So that's certainly another sort of individual to keep an eye on. And then off the back of that, Max Edgecombe has captained the side really well, even in some difficult moments. He's always sort of led the team and provided something that has inspired the rest of his team to try and sort of kick on from. So, there's a lot of good players there, and it is a really bright group. And as I alluded to in sort of your first question, it's just sort of building up a consistency and hoping that, the rest of the squad and the guys can also sort of play their part in amongst, the rest of the season where there's plenty of matches to be played still.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And you mentioned some of those players making their way into the first team. This week, of course, we're celebrating 1 year since Gary Caldwell took over the first team. And one of the highlights, I suppose, one of his philosophies has always been to get young talent into the first team, get them amongst the first team, and develop them into players that can contribute. We've seen Jake Richards a couple of times, Alfie Cunningham, Max Edgecombe and Tom Dean. They all came off the bench against Arsenal under-21s in the EFL Trophy. How keen are the club to start involving the young players in first teams even more throughout the season?
I think really it's just been a huge identity of the club in the fact that a lot of sort of their success is based on what is produced from the academy, and that has not gone away since I've sort of obviously taken reported on the games that the under-18s and age groups below have since I've been there. So that's always been a key sort of identity of the club. But as you say, the names that you've sort of just talked about there, the first team fortunately have quite a few competitions where they can give that opportunity to the likes of those youngsters, and not only is that beneficial for the crowd watching them and seeing who the next potential star is and things like that, but it's big for their development. I often get told by the coaches at the club that although the big thing is about trying to earn that professional contract, it's then kicking on from there. That's not mission accomplished. It's about the 2 years after that. So you can see there's a real sort of journey in and sort of plan in place in terms of trying to maximize the potential of a lot of these players. And obviously those individuals that you talked about coming off the bench, that is the next step in their journey. I'd like to think they took a lot from playing against, a side as good as an academy from Arsenal. But these guys, again, have also played in sort of men's games across the region in terms of like county cups and things like that. And they've also gone out on loan, which a few of them have done in recent sort of months. And I know a few have just got deals again going out to some more men's teams as well. So essentially it's all about, just making sure that at this key stage of their career that they are maximising all their opportunities and making sure they are sort of learning on a day-to-day basis, not just on the pitch or in game situations, but sort of just progressing as human beings as well, to essentially make that step up to being a professional footballer on a full-time basis, that much easier.
Exactly. And some of the, you mentioned though, some of the academy players who have recently gone out on loan in the last couple of weeks. Sonny Cox, of course, gone to Yeovil, Mitch Beardmore, Pedro Borges, they've both gone out on loan to non-league clubs as well. Do you think that this will be something that some of the current academy players, some of the under-18s at the moment, will be looking forward to maybe throughout the rest of this season and maybe into next season as well?
Traditionally, I think the senior members, certainly the second years in the under-18 setup, that the club are keen to get them out on loan in the second half of the season after they finish sort of the Youth Alliance Southwest Division before they enter sort of a Merit League phase. So those second years will certainly be, or the club will be looking to send those second years out on loan, because that sort of exposure to men's football is a huge step for them. It's completely different to what they're going through currently on a Saturday in academy football. You don't get the sort of bits, the ugly side, if you like, to the game and things like that in an academy football as you would if you were playing, just down the road in a men's local game. So I know the club are always keen for that, and to get them to learn just those kind of tricks and trades that you might not necessarily get, because academy football can be sometimes almost a little bit nice and it's all about attractive football, but there are some darker sides to the game that come in handy, if you like, when you turn professional, and those kind of exposures to those moments do get sort of supplied to those second years when they go out on loan.
Onto a bit of a feel-good story then, and one of City's academy graduates, Harry Kite, he was spotted last week helping to train some of the City under-14s. What do you think that this says about the togetherness of the club? I thought this was great.
Yeah, so I think the club, again, are also really keen to get guys that have sort of graduated and had a journey already through sort of the club and the academy, to get them involved and almost inspire sort of the next generation, if you like. Harry's obviously been at the club for a long time, since he was sort of a young kid, and I know that obviously it got out there, and there was sort of exposure that obviously he did help the under-14s, but I've also seen him at, for instance, I think it was the Devon Bowl game when the we had a team played at Crediton, and that was full of youngsters too. So he likes to support, I think, the club in general, and just see how obviously the next guys are getting on, and if he can pass on advice like he did I'm sure he did on many occasions with the under-14s when he was with them, he will. He's been on such a journey himself, and obviously progressed into this fantastic player that obviously Grecian fans love and can rely upon, to give a performance every week in front of the SJP crowd. And I'm sure he just sort of wants to give back as well to the academy as well, that helped make him become this wonderful professional, and help sort of develop the next talent, and hopefully replicate what he's done on the pitch already.
And finally, just another one about some of our graduates. And I know that you've been working at the club for quite some time, so you'll know quite a few of them, I'm sure. October's been a pretty successful month for Exeter City's academy, away from the club. We've seen one of the most successful graduates in Ollie Watkins play and score for England. Ethan Ampadu, he's been tearing it up with Wales and Leeds United. And then Josh Key, talking about the process of becoming a Republic of Ireland international. It's just so great to see our academy graduates doing so well.
I think like many sort of City fans as well, that they always like to keep an eye on how City graduates are getting on, even if they've gone onto other things and stuff. And certainly the three individuals that you've mentioned there are doing more than enough to get recognition. And Ollie Watkins, as you say, he seems to have really found his form in terms of leading the line for Villa, and as you say, getting back into the England fold, shall I say, and scoring for the national team. So that's always a proud moment for the academy. And as you say, Ethan sort of dropping down to one division to Leeds, but Leeds also knocking on the door at trying to get that promotion back to the Premier League, and he's a key part of that. Starting to do well, and obviously always representing Wales as well, and Wales are obviously reliant on him too. So that's great. And then Josh Key, as you say, seems to have embraced his move to Swansea. Certainly chipped in with a few goals, and looking like he's getting sort of some recognition in terms of a national call up for Ireland. So they're certainly three that certainly put the a great sort of bright light on the academy. And there's still several out there that are doing their jobs too. So it really just shows how good, obviously, and great the academy have been over a number of years, and will continue to be for many more.
Absolutely, and a real nice feel-good story to end. Thank you so much for joining me, Derek. Great insight as always.
Yeah, no problem, Tom. All the best.
That's all for this episode of Park Life, the official Exeter City podcast. Let us know what you want to hear more of via our social media channels, and don't forget to hit the follow button so you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening. Up the City.
He's been picked out. Socks down to his ankle. Picks out Stansfield. That's the hat-trick. And that's what dreams are made of.